Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Bose Nail, Justin Duso, Joseph Bizarro, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Steve ALM, Maria Nealons, David Robinson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Winder Rider, Liam Nedrick, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson. Why this is taking so long today to scroll all the way through this. Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank got there in the end. Massive thanks of appreciation to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'm going to raise the mic on Skype and Discord today, as there is now, it seems, no longer a Google Hangouts to use for this show, so I'm going to have to find alternatives to that, which shouldn't be a massive problem, but in the meantime we'll use Skype for that particular purpose.
Hey, Barry.
Hello?
Hello.
You hear me?
We do hear you. I'm going to have to use Skype today, because there's no more Hangouts on air. No more Hangouts.
No, what?
No more Hangouts.
Oh,
Heartbreaking.
Did they finally cancel it altogether then?
Mm-hmm.
Gee.
Wow.
Okay, things are going fast now.
Well, I suppose it's kind of surplus to requirements, and they'd pared it right back anyway. But there's like 1,000,001 alternatives now, right? And without doing anything, I can just do the same thing with Skype, which is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was handy, right? It was just another medium that we often used, so...
Yeah, it's
why
another channel.
Why
that
now?
I don't know. I just came into it this morning, opened it up, and I was like, oh, no video conferencing call button. Oh, great.
Is it just a glitch, or is there some news about that? That it's right now?
Well, their news was to say that they were getting rid of it as Hangouts on air ages ago, and then they pared it right back and left obviously a temporary solution in the meantime.
Yeah, but they had Zoom for a long time now. You would think that they would sort of let people know this is going to be the end and that's the date. And yeah.
Maybe they did. Maybe I just didn't realise. I'm going to assume ignorance rather than malice. Ignorance on my part, i.e. they probably did say and I just didn't realise.
Okay, yeah. I haven't used Hangouts also in a long time, so I'm not aware of it either. So, right.
In tech circles, it's a bit of a joke. Hangouts. It's like, who uses Hangouts? It's like talking about MySpace.
Yeah, but I know that Zoom, for example, is sort of like controlling and very... they can look in on the whole conversation. Not that they can't do it here, but I heard that it was not very secure.
Depends what you want to do. I mean, I don't really care about that if I'm get my tongue around it. If I'm ruthlessly honest, I don't care. If somebody's listening in, it's being broadcast. So who cares?
Yeah, but other people, they might have had these Zoom conferences that they don't record, right? So,
hey, Flatsoid.
Hello, is it working?
This is working. This is going to be what we do from now on. Fortunately, because it's such a massive call group, it doesn't ring, which I think would be the most annoying thing. It just leaves a notification to say, do you want to join the call, which is perfect. That was my only concern. I'm like, I can't use Skype because it means ringing everybody every day. Well, it doesn't. I can just use this group, put out a notification. If you choose to join the group call, you can.
Yeah, you can make a smaller group maybe where you have the usual panel members on there.
Yeah, I always put the link out in Master B, so I might as well just ring Master B.
Yeah. Well, you can also use Discord for everything, right? You can just be there and not have two separate things.
Well, no, for the reasons of wanting to retain a certain degree of control over the show, I want the panel to be separate from the Discord server. I want that.
Okay.
Because if there's chaos in the Discord server, the panel's unaffected. I'm unaffected either way, but the panel's unaffected if there's suddenly a load of Discord rumblings.
Yeah. I think you're a little bit spoiled by that.
What, having my show nicely organised, I'm spoiled.
Yeah. Well, spoiled by the... I mean, remember the days when you only had Hangouts and it was sort of, possible to snipe and whatever. And you had to start all over again.
Yeah. I remember when that was it. I remember the days where I used to start the show by loading Hangouts. And that was it. That was all you needed, right? You could do everything. You could broadcast live from Hangouts through YouTube. You had control over everybody's levels. You didn't need anything else.
Yeah, but they could sort of eliminate the shows by
Oh, of course, it was woefully inadequate from a security perspective, but from a convenience perspective, it was great.
Yeah, and then you were spoiled by having Discord and having these two separate channels where you can put the people through. That's the spoiling part.
Yeah, I'll find another alternative if needs
some
be.
Respect for my Discord server.
Oh, my bad. Discord's great. I mean, to be perfectly honest, though, Betty, the show wouldn't survive without Discord. So it's an integral part of the show. That's why I'm not complimenting it, because it kind of goes without saying. It's it is the show. It's the most critical bit, because it's a public platform where people can join via Discord.
Sure. Yeah, well, having a sort of a symbiosis going, I think. I mean, my Discord server only exists because of you, also because of the new people that come in every day. So we need each other.
How many users have you got on the server now?
It's too funny.
So you're antecedent.
How many server users do you have now, Betty?
Server users. I think about 1,700 people that are members of the server.
17.
But they are not all active, and there's a lot of soccer accounts, of course.
Okay, well, if you say 1,500, then sort of users of flat Earth science versus pseudoscience, that would be a really rough estimate, would you say? That's a good number.
Well, I think that the active members are a lot less. I mean, that maybe 50 people are sort of more active than the other people just watching in or just passing by. So, yeah.
Yeah, but
so
that's
the
always
active
going to...
members of Discord are less, but they still might be able to come in from time to time.
I think that's going to be the case with any group. There's going to be active members and people who are dormant or just looking or, sneak by every so often. But, the amount of... Because obviously if you've only got 50 people full stop, then you're going to have 5 or 6 active users.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not growing as fast as for example 24/7, but it's just a different purpose my server has. It's more like a streaming service basically, and people sort of go through my server to other. They sort of get introduced by my server, and then they go to other platforms because they want to debate some more, or they like the 24/7. It's also a good platform. A lot of knowledgeable people in there, and I got a lot of trolls, of course.
Yeah, your tip of the spear, though. I mean, obviously, Flat Earth 24/7 Discord does a very similar thing, but in terms of the the level of discussion, I think it's a step above. I'm not being critical of Flat Earth 24/7 Discord either. you're just tip of the spear. They're not quite, and that's not being derogatory to them. It's just the way it is. I'm sure they'd probably agree. They're like, yeah, we don't necessarily, but they do cover the in-depth subjects that we cover, but it's not like 100% of the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
Here, it's
And because it's 24/7, it is too much for a whole day to discuss the same topics the whole time. So they sort of change all over the place, and they got these long streams that nobody will ever revisit afterwards. And that I think that they should do them shorter. But yeah, what are you going to do, right? They need to do it their way. And I think it's
I don't agree. I think it's a perfect balance, actually, having both, because I get criticised occasionally for not being 24 hours, not being in Discord all the time to just chit-chat with people and things of that nature. It's like, well, no. What happens in pseudoscience, what happens in the pseudoscience Flat Earth Discord, which is what we'll call yours for simplicity, is much more focused. So people come in and specifically debate about the subject. It stays on point. If it's not, it's pulled back on point. And that's it. But it's not going to be, you can't have that 24/7. You just can't. So, to have both, you've got to have two separate platforms. So I'm very grateful that it's split up in the way it is, actually.
Yeah, I think it's that's what I said. It has a different purpose, right? Every server has a different purpose, different people group that is in there for their own liking. I mean, and I think it's good that way. I mean, that makes it more available to many more people. Yeah.
I'll put it this way. I just left 24/7 and the topic was the New World Order.
Well, there you go. Yeah. There's something that I would immediately pull us away from if we were discussing it in the live show, right?
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, because that's not your whole topic. Right. Yeah.
I just want to relax and I go chill there because they talk about practically anything. But
is that someone having his mic on?
I didn't understand the word you said.
Sorry, my internet is very bad these days. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It's last week.
Not your internet. It's the compressor noise and South African accent. That's the only other problem, which is why I intentionally didn't stick Skype up on screen, because I can't just share my. Oh, can I? I hadn't actually checked that. I'll reserve saying that till I've actually tested that. There's a few limitations of Skype, like the rumbling noise that I'm now hearing. I can't see who's doing that. It's Neil. Of course it's Neil. Can't see who's doing it. Yeah, I'll get to grips with the limitations of Skype, and I might need to replace it.
I like, Neil, when you said in Ballbusters, was it in Ballbusters? Was it the other day in QE Live when you said, "Hey, I'm here"? that was at the end of the show.
I kept losing it. Kept going in and out, and terrible.
It was so fun.
Are you ever going to join Ballbusters again?
Well, the thing is that I talked to QE and I said, this is the time that I still can be with my parents. My parents are kind of old, and we, with the lockdowns here and the things that they might sort of make these how do you say, sort of lockdowns, in the sense that you can't go out at a certain time of the evening. And I want to spend as much time with them as I can, since they're still alive. So I said to him, my family is now more to the show than to the shows. So that's it, basically.
No, I totally understand that. That makes sense.
Yes. Sometimes you have to choose between family and other things, and Saturday night is sort of a family. It was always a sort of a family thing. So I just don't want to miss him, and it might change in the future. I mean, but it's not now, right? So that's why I said to him, well, I'm not going to be there for a while, but if there's something that I can contribute with, that's still the QE live, I will be there. So that's and since you're there, you can guide QE through the shows.
Yeah, I think it's Betty's connection actually, Flatsoid. Or maybe it's mine.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's all good. I'm just nice to have you. No, I get my fill of Betty on QE's live show on a Tuesday. So, yeah, I'm not complaining too much. I still get to get my fill.
Yeah, the tall bitch that was talking on Tuesdays, huh?
Yeah.
I see the plus side with Skype. We can at least share screen.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. You shared your screen, but in the Hangout, I can just click it on me, and then you'll just appear doing that in the little icon. Whereas on Skype, suddenly I've got your face. It's giant. You know what I mean? Not saying you've got a giant head or anything, but you know, it'd be on screen, full screen, where Skype presented. So I'm going to figure out. I'll play with it. I'll figure out what it can and can't do. It's always sounded a bit too shrill. That's my main criticism. The main reason that I don't like using Skype is it sounds shrill. There's no other way I can describe it. Google just sounded warmer. It sounded nicer on the ear. So, again, maybe that's something I can fiddle with.
Yeah, I agree. The sound is different. Yeah, it sounds a little bit warmer in the Hangouts than the Skype. Yes.
I think the quality of Skype is higher, but it's more. It exposes people and their rough microphones a bit more. That's the problem. Whereas I think the compression on G Plus was a bit more severe, and therefore it was a lot more forgiving of rough microphones.
Sure. Yeah.
But when
I thought you had all the equipment to make it sound better.
I can. There's various things I can do.
Or is that just in your home with these stupid things that you have on the wall, man?
That only affects me and how well I can hear you and how well I sound to the audience. It doesn't obviously affect how well you sound to the audience, which I can fiddle with various different plugins. But you know, I know from past experience that there's not a great deal I can do if it's just a rough signal. Like, no offense to you, but if you're just on your phone like you are now, it's going to be loud and then get compressed and do things like that because it's a phone. And there's nothing really I can do about that.
Yeah, and people are fiddling with the phones, right?
Or people leaving their mics wide open, things like that. You know, again, that's something I've just got to be vigilant of. But I think I can actually mute people in Skype. Let's just have a quick look, see if I can. Yeah, I can. I can mute you. I'm just going to pop you on mute, Betty. Can you just tell me that you can unmute yourself? Although, if you're on a phone, is that going to be difficult for you?
I don't know.
Well, I'll stick you on. Let's try. I'll stick you on mute from here. So I've muted Betty now. Let's see how easily she can come off mute and sort out the problem. There we go. That was easy.
That's very easy.
Yeah, beware, Neil. I can now mute you.
You can mute Neil finally.
Yeah. But when you're talking and not being responded from now on, you have to think, has Nathan shut me up because I've been whistling my crisps in my car?
So what happened? I just came on.
You, Nathan.
Hangouts doesn't have a video calling or video conferencing facility anymore. It's completely gone. It's not just not Hangouts on air anymore. It's just no longer a video conferencing service.
No warning?
You broke Hangouts.
Hang on, no warning? They just took it out?
Well, no, it had technically gone ages ago because that particular part of Hangouts was Hangouts on air formerly, and then Hangouts itself was just a social media messaging platform, but just happened to have retained some of the features of Hangouts on air, including the video conferencing with a limited raft of features. Well, they've got rid of that, and they'd already technically got rid of it anyway. I think they were just letting people have a kind of a tag along, whatever you want to call it.
Hangout. Tag along Hangout. So I can get rid of Hangouts as an app now? We don't need it?
Hold fire just for now.
All right.
If it's still
I
there,
think things are going to get worse. I
think
think this
so.
is bigger than what you said.
I think getting rid of Hangouts when nobody used it anyway. I was one of the last ones. I don't think that's a big deal, really.
You were the last one hanging out.
You're
We'll
gonna
be
try and
okay.
shut us up. I'm telling you.
Here comes Neil.
So negative. I don't think it's a big
Hey.
problem, Neil, honestly.
I got trained carrier pigeons. That have been,
Conspiracy. It's conspiracy.
You can still rumpus tent. You see, it's still all good. You can still talk over him.
I said that this is conspiracy.
Hey, Betty.
I agree.
Take that to 24/7 Discord. What are you doing here?
Everything has got to do with flat Earth.
Well, it all takes place on a flat Earth, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, that's a pretty plain statement. Come on, give us more.
You know what I'm talking about.
Come on.
It all started with this. It started gaining momentum. Then all of a sudden, mysterious, microscopic diseases come flying in the air.
No. Just no. Just because they've intertwined in certain aspects these two narratives, and they have, what? That's fair enough. That doesn't mean that the one is a cause of the other. A lot of
Flatten
these.
the curve, Nathan. Come on, remember them days?
Yeah, okay. They say flatten the curve. The end of COVID-19 is on the horizon, but they also say don't touch your face. What's that got to do with flat Earth?
Face of the flat Earth.
Face
There
of
it
the
is.
Earth.
Oh my God, tenuous at best.
This is too funny, Neil. I love it, though. You're going to bring me an old Hardy Boys conspiracy book now?
I don't like it, to be honest. There's a lot of the conspiracy flat earthers that talk about COVID, and I don't like what they talk about. They, for a start, saying it's not real. I don't agree with that. I simply don't agree.
Well, that's stupid. That's just stupid then. It is. It's just not what they're saying it is. Come on.
What they're reporting statistically, their statistics are accurate too. And I have a little chuckle when I see them. Statistically, mathematically, in that abstract world of descriptions and describing things, then their descriptions are accurate within their language. Well, here I would hope, had a better understanding of what I've just said means. Is it scientific evidence? Is it causally validated with experiment? No, it's epidemiological studies and mathematics. And they're accurate. And COVID's real. Oh, am I going to cause loads of offences if everyone can get really, really uppity with me when I say things like this? I don't care.
Yeah, but they're working with models, and models are pseudoscience. So there you go.
Yeah.
You can do anything with mathematics.
Well said,
But
Betty.
most of
Exactly.
them, they say they're following the science.
They're hijacking words in its normal context would mean something. Applying it to a mathematic model that someone else could come and tweak a little bit of math and make it be something else. It's not a world of reality mathematics.
Well, Neil, when they say that to you, you know how to reply. Thanks largely to Quantum Eraser and your 5th grade education. That would be to say that, oh right, we should follow the science. No worries, what's your scientific evidence? And they won't have any. They've got epidemiological studies. Pseudoscience. And if they say it's science, you can call them on it. No one's going to shut me down for that. Absolutely legitimate based on the mainstream education they gave me. Based on what they're saying and me saying, okay, you say science, give it me. It's like, you haven't got it. Oh, so the only problem here is that we've caught you out in your misuse of the word science. You don't actually have any science. Well, maybe you didn't realise that. It's okay. That's what we flat earthers are here for. To educate you in what science actually is and how you've been misled into believing that your mathematical reifications are science when they're not. Now, we're not going to hold that against you. Just understand that you don't have science. The same goes for the globe. But does that affect me in my day-to-day existence? No. Because when I see people presenting what they claim to be science, and it isn't, I just go, that isn't science. So I'm not too concerned about it. It's just the way somebody's described something, mathematically or otherwise. Well, okay. Their description's flawed. Doesn't worry me very much.
Indeed.
Well, they say that the vaccines are for 95% effective. How about that?
Sure they are, based on their testing and the effectiveness that the parameters are testing for. I'm sure they are 95% effective, based on their parameters and testing. It's not science.
Well, that's yeah. Well, you need to know what the explanation is. And
Oh, well,
if
then you can
see
look
it,
into those
you think,
things.
oh my God,
You
that
can
is?
do that, and people should, and I have. And when you look into them, you can then make an educated decision on what you should do based on the information that they put out and publish for you to read. So read it.
I will
But they don't.
say
They
this,
don't
though.
really.
I went back to work last week. I got almost a full week, and now I was asked to produce a negative COVID test if I want to continue to work. So they're really trying to shut down people altogether.
Yeah, it's all about control. It's obvious. If this was a real pandemic, then we would all know someone through someone, if not directly ourselves, who has it. Hospitals would be full. You wouldn't have doctors come up on YouTube and say, this isn't what it is, and then they get shut down. It's just like the fake geometric horizon that doesn't exist.
No, it isn't. That's
it's
incorrect.
not science.
That's wrong. No.
What's wrong?
Their definition and standard of pandemic is being met. So you're wrong. Sorry. No. Don't laugh. I'm being dead serious. I don't want to get this channel. Just let me say my piece, please. Hello? No. I don't want this channel shut down because I've got somebody conceived or perceived to be a conspiracy theorist stating incorrect information. That's wrong. No. You're going to say it's not a pandemic. Well, let me just finish. Hello? It is a pandemic. You are wrong. Look it up based on their definition and standard. We're talking about descriptions. Well, if you're going to argue about the semantics and the parameters of their description and say it's wrong, well, you're wrong. And I'm going to call you on that.
I love it. Description.
Yeah, and then I would say, well, change this whole definition of pandemic in 2009.
Listen, I get the coded message. I'm fine with it.
Right. If Becky's wrong about... just another qualification. If Becky's wrong when she describes a Coriolis effect being apparent, that would be to notice it, and how we wouldn't, then we'll call her on her own rhetoric, right? We'll correct her. Well, this is no different. Now, if you're incorrectly asserting that their rhetoric is wrong when it isn't, obviously that stands to be corrected. It will be followed swiftly with me presenting what I've already said. This isn't scientific evidence, and if you say it is, I'm in every way willing to study the scientific validity based on cause and effect reasoning, hypothesis, experimentation, all of the things we discuss here. But when you start getting into their arbitrary definitions and the semantics and say that they're wrong, well, you're wrong, and that's got to be pointed out. That's why people lose their channels, because they say things like that when they're wrong. Now, far be it for me to agree or disagree with what's being claimed, but when you're going to disagree with the epidemiological study and say it's incorrect, well, then again, I'll have to call you on it and say, no, you're wrong. Now, an epidemiological study is mathematical based, it's description based, it's abstract, it's not science, and all those things are true. None of them will get me in any trouble, but saying that it's not a pandemic, well, that's just false.
Excellent.
Well, it is a pandemic, I'm telling you, because I can't go unless I get tested. I can't go to work.
Well, there
I'm
you
not
go.
saying it's not a pandemic. I'm saying it is.
Well, those are part of the
reverse pandemic.
Well, those are part of the implementations based on the pandemic, which is in effect, correct? And I can't comment on those. I feel very bad for you. You know, I can express I can express my personal feelings on it, but that's it.
I love your mathematical tears.
But if you think about it, it's great because you know the world is not a globe.
Oh, that's too good. Excellent.
By the way, they're shooting up a rocket this afternoon. They shot up a rocket already this morning, and now they have another one, and somehow they're meeting or something.
Sorry.
I don't know. So
in a violation of
hold
nature.
on, I need a bit of clarity, Neil. Need a bit of clarity. Did you say up? Did you say up? What do you mean up? What's up?
Well, they're saying that they're going to the ISS.
Oh, right. Where they claim that the light in the sky they represent by men on high wire on a studio backdrop, where do they say that their light claimed to be the studio presentation is? That would be the ISS, its location, according to them, when they show it with men on high wire.
They say we know it's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. So it's in a fake region.
So it's a lie. So that we can call also. So they're saying they've sent up rockets to a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum that is not in existence. Oh, fake place. No, they haven't sent rockets up to space. No, they haven't docked with what they call the ISS in a sky vacuum. That's a lie. They're just lying to you.
Can we track these rockets, though?
It's funny. Don't you think it's funny that astronauts can sort of drown in space?
There is no space. Nobody's drowning in space because there isn't space. There's no second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. If astronauts are drowning, it has nothing to do with their fake place they claim to visit. It's good to have a warm-up show, isn't it? The pre-show on a Monday starts off talking about the lack of hangouts on air, ends up with us debating about the nature of reality on the warm-up level before the live show. I love it. Mondays are great. Everyone full of passion.
They are ace, but I just got to get used to this new system here.
Me too, me too. It's far more stressful for me, Neil, I promise. That said, the ability to cut out a load of background noise from somebody who's forgot to turn their mic on, or off rather, is very useful. What isn't so good is the backdrop is now no longer my presented screen on Hangouts on Air, so it's just going to be this man in his snow globe. Hey ho! A load of people in Discord, I should really hustle off mute before we go live.
Okay, I'm back from getting tea. What happened to the panel?
Yeah,
I just see Neil and you.
I don't know who's in the panel. Is it just...
I have two images on top of my iPad. It's just you and Neil.
Yeah, me, Neil, Flatsoid, and I presume Betty's now disappeared.
Okay, Flatsoid just came out.
Okay, so I can see everyone who's in there.
Sorry if I keep going out because of the internet connection.
No worries, not a problem. Go live in a couple of minutes. Hopefully the conversation won't die out beforehand while I fiddle with things.
Oh, no problem. So Neil, how was going back to work for a week? How was it working with the boys? Okay.
What was that?
I said, how was it going back to work for a week? It's been a while. So you see some of your friends?
Oh, yeah. It was actually pretty good. Actually,
Very
pretty
nice.
good. I thought my knee was going to be bothering me, but it didn't, thank God. I was able to produce at a, fairly good rate.
Yeah, I remember the show where you had to pay a $70 parking ticket, or not parking ticket, but spot.
Yeah, that was Friday.
Yeah, I mean, living in the country, we don't have to worry about parking. We just park.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, Flatzoid, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good Monday.
Hello.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Hello from anybody in Discord?
Good morning.
Good
morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello. Good to have you all. Welcome one and all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, horizon formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not even from Hangouts.
What? But in Skype.
No.
That's a definite no.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You mean the 15-degree deviation that we should all experience if there was?
Correct.
Speaking of axial rotation, I've been speaking to a pilot lately and asking him if he is going against Earth's spin on a runway, does he have to account for speed because of that? And you know what his answer was?
What?
No.
It's because
I got something. I was
Earth's not turning under anything.
driving the other day.
Go on, Neil, sorry.
I was driving the other day, and right above me was a plane. It was going straight, and I don't know. I think I seen the Coriolis because I immediately hit a roundabout. So I'm doing like 50 miles an hour on a total roundabout. I kept glancing up at the plane, and it actually did look like it was going off a little bit, like it wasn't going straight anymore. Did I experience a Coriolis deviation?
Yes. Yes, you did, Neil. Likewise, if you were spinning on a kid's roundabout in a playground and you looked up and saw a plane, because you're turning underneath it, it looks like the plane's curving. At one point, it looks like it's done a complete U-turn because you've turned underneath it. Now, obviously, the plane's not doing anything. It's just travelling in a straight line. But because you're spinning underneath it, or in your case, driving around on a roundabout, it looks like it's taking a curved trajectory. Well, it isn't. It's just a not actual deflection experienced as U-turn underneath stuff, and they claim Earth has this effect, which would involve Earth turning underneath things like planes that aren't attached to the rotating reference frame they claim turns at 15 degrees now beneath it. Now, that would shorten flight times. Obviously, if we were turning beneath that plane on a rotating Earth, that would mean Earth was rotating beneath aeroplanes for us to see them seem to deflect.
Well,
It blew my mind.
Nathan, some of them claim this is happening. Others, when you bring it up to them, say we shouldn't expect to see it happening.
Well, they deny it because it's not existing in actuality. So we don't see Earth turning underneath aeroplanes, shortening their flight times, or causing an apparent deviation from the ground. That would be a Coriolis deflection, not actual effect of it seeming to curve because you're turning underneath it. Well, we don't have that effect. And when we as flat earthers point out that we don't have Coriolis deviation on an Earth that's claimed to be spinning, they say we wouldn't expect to see 15 degrees an hour drift exactly as we claim. That's what they argue with us at trench level. Now we just say welcome to flat Earth. So no 15 degrees an hour deviation then. We wouldn't expect to see it. Oh, well, there isn't one then.
But if they claim Coriolis is based on scientific evidence, would you not have to actually have a natural phenomenon observed? Then why are they not using natural phenomena and they just making man-made observations?
Well, it would be very much apparent if it actually happened. There would be a phenomenon. You'd see things drifting away. You'd launch a drone on the equator and it'd drift away 1,000 miles an hour. Or a bird would launch off the ground and Earth would turn underneath it. Now, that would be a phenomenon worth studying if it actually happened. It doesn't. We're not turning. We don't have two reference frames. Earth isn't turning beneath stuff at 15 degrees an hour. It's not turning underneath the sun at 15 degrees an hour. It's not turning underneath a drone at 15 degrees an hour. It's not turning underneath a sniper's bullet at 15 degrees an hour. It's not turning underneath Neil deGrasse Tyson's football when it leaves the football field and curves through the goal, according to him. Because that would involve Earth turning underneath the football, and it would also turn underneath the blimp that watches the game, and would cause the blimp to drift away at 15 degrees an hour, and that doesn't happen.
So, Nathan, if someone who really believes in the globe religion bought you a ticket from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA, and it took you an hour and a half to get to LA because the Earth is turning 15 degrees underneath you coming your way. And then the return flight took over 4.5 hours from LA to, would you believe it then?
It would take a lot longer than 4.5 hours if you were fighting an 800-mile-an-hour turn of the Earth beneath you. But nevertheless, without any deviation, it would be about 4.5 hours either way, which it is. But if you were flying from Charlotte to LA in your first example, then it would only take an hour and a half, and everyone would be really happy with their shortened flight times. Balloonists would do really well because they'd just have to hover in the air for a bit and wait for the next country along to come along to them, which doesn't happen.
So you mean to say that even the flight from LA to Charlotte, North Carolina, say at 600 miles per hour, if the Earth is turning underneath at 800 miles per hour, you would never reach your destination?
If you were travelling from LA to Charlotte, I haven't done the maths to see if you'd never reach it, but you certainly have a big problem. In fact, yeah, if you've got 600 versus 800, if that's the exact numbers, then no, you'd never catch it, would you?
Yeah, I think it's 830 at that latitude.
So you'd never catch it. You'd always be fighting against Earth going faster than you were.
Okay, ballers, you'll have to do another test to prove it. That one won't work.
Yeah, net loss of 200 miles an hour. Oh, right. Well, then you'd never ever make it back to Charlotte. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No evidence to the distance to the sun.
Has anybody seen Arwen in the last few days?
I saw something on Skype, him asking a question, but he has his show today, I think.
Oh, he did have a show today.
Arwen's feeling under the weather today.
Okay. I was a bit concerned about him because he didn't go live on, I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, and I tried to get in touch and he didn't respond. But obviously he's okay, which is good. That's all that matters. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
None whatsoever. Reification.
How can a concept be in a concept and then call it science?
About any single
Well,
viable...
wouldn't that be... Sorry.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I was growing up, gravity was mass attracting mass, and the larger objects would attract the smaller objects. I'd like to see that actually in action, but I've never seen it.
Because it doesn't happen.
I would like to see something standing still, accelerating upwards.
Me too.
And none of this nonsense happens. For a start, the mass attracting mass is 105 years out of date.
Well, that gives you an idea of how old I am then.
Sure, you're not 105 years
But they
old.
talk about it. They talk about it and teach it like it's really true, like this is happening. It's unbelievable.
Well, I'm more than halfway there. Let's put it that way.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Well,
It's kind of
go on. Go on,
it's
Fletcher.
kind of strange to me. It's kind of strange to me that all the astrophysicists and everything I've been asking for this question just keep avoiding me. They would rather come and give me just a story and ignore me than actually give me an hypothesis.
Yeah, I agree with Flatzoid. I've gone to Dr. Becky's channel and the other channels, Neil deGrasse and all, and put comments, and they never seem to want to respond to a good question. But you get trolled by all their followers.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No evidence for that either. They do say P waves and S waves for some reason whenever this comes up.
But when they say molten iron core, they're assuming that we're on a sphere and that the Earth is a sphere.
Yes, at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Black Swan took care of that.
Where's Chocolate? He's also missing in action, it seems. No Chocolate, no Arwin. God, it started off so well in the pre-show.
Did they get your invite?
They just
maybe they don't know what the
realize
score
what's
is.
happening.
Yeah, I should explain that during the live
I
show.
don't think they know.
Maybe they don't realise. Yeah, who knows? I'll explain it after the fact. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
No, because
No, but I got
entropy would
something to say about
increase.
that. Listening back on the show, I don't know what Righteous was trying to say the other day, and it pissed me off all over again because he was speaking on an authoritative manner, and I don't think he has any proof for anything.
Well, no, that's impossible to have any kind of pressure without containment because you need the molecules to be bouncing off the walls of a container of some type to have pressure. And every time they demonstrate, meaning the ballers, they either come in with a container or somehow say it's a container, but at the same time say we can have it without a container. So
No,
you can
but
follow that
Righteous-
kind of...
But
You know what's
Righteous was
actually
saying
funny?
that things could be different up there. That's what annoyed me.
Yeah, up
You know
there
what's
is
actually
natural
funny?
law. Yeah,
You know, it's
what's
actually funny. Even the atmospheric law, I've been studying around on it because it comprises of Henry's law and everything, and it also has to have to do with containment. Isn't that funny?
And why would this annoy
Well,
you?
if we live in then...
He formulated his claim, he presented it reasonably concisely, defended it, stood corrected at the end. What's the issue?
No issue.
That's the issue. He left like he won.
But it doesn't matter. There's no issue anymore.
Okay, a lack of humility. Well, so what? We deal with a lot worse here, Neil. Come on.
A lot of stuff I didn't hear till I re-listened to the show, so I'm pissed off all over again.
Well, don't be. There's no need. No need.
Relax, Neil.
I don't know.
Down, boy, down.
I save my annoyance for the fundies who come here and assert it in the moment, because there's a show to be made as a result of it. But letting Friendly Fire annoy you, he's gone out, he's done a bit of research. I appreciate the fact that he asserted it in the kind of with the dogged determination that he had behind his assertion. Good. Keeps it much more concise. Direct. I like that. I appreciate that. If it pissed you off, then fair enough. I'm not going to, I can't question your feelings on it, right?
Well, let's go back to gas pressure.
Because he was coming. Yeah, that's my point. You still can't demonstrate it, but you're going to turn around and tell me that the way God said the waters can go this far and no more. He didn't say that about the sky. He said nothing about the sky. And to say that things could be different up there and we're leaning on our natural understanding and not God's understanding, it seems to want to put himself in a position where only he hears from God.
So?
Well, isn't that a special pleading fallacy, I think, if you claim about something different but don't know?
How's it any different to Dave Rakier Gaffer claiming that we've got waters above the waters based on the same standard? Now, you would say that biblically his standard of historic evidence... But I'm just saying, other than the stacking up of the historical standards, there's no difference in the assertion, one being right in historic standard, the other being wrong. But
Well, hang on. I got to come to Neil's aid here. Dave is referencing the Bible correctly, whereas Righteous came in to reference the Bible incorrectly. So if they're going to use the Bible as the reference, then Righteous was wrong and Dave is right, because that's what the Bible teaches.
But it doesn't change the fact that both are a baseless assertion fallacy on the face of their actual physical evidence. Both have the same standard here. The fact that you would tolerate one because it meets a biblical standard is irrelevant to the overall standard, but one is praised and held up because it... Hold on, I'm talking. One is praised up and held as good, right, in your words, because it meets a biblical standard. The other one, because it doesn't meet the biblical standard, it's just him postulating. Admittedly, he's trying to use the biblical standard. It's suddenly pissing you off or pissing Neil off. It's like, well, why? Both fail in terms of their physical standard of evidence.
No one's making a physical standard of it. I'm not making a
I am. That's my point.
When I quote
hold on. I am. And my point is they both fail. But one is, that one meets the biblical standard.
Well, it's the context in which you speak of, right? Because if I'm saying the Bible is a revelation from God, it's a special revelation, God having to come from the outside to communicate with us because we can't leave here to communicate with him. And I say that's what the book claims to be, and I'm staying within the frame of that. I'm fine because I'm telling everybody what the ground rules are. I'm not trying to claim physical evidence. I'm not doing any of this stuff. Now,
okay.
I could easily,
well, I've got to stamp that out then, haven't I? I've got to say, well, this isn't a biblical debate, so the standard that we have here isn't that. No offence, but if you can work within those parameters, I'm not going to be seen as a reasonable person if I allow a biblical debate to take place when the standards here aren't those. So while that might be your perspective, it's like, take it elsewhere. No offence.
No offence taken, because you said it. See, you set a standard that this is not a biblical debate, so I'm fine with that.
Okay, but we can take it in another way as well, that science could be validating the word of God. We got gas pressure, right? And for gas pressure, you need containment.
Yeah. But would I ever criticise that? I won't even criticise people using the word firmament. If you want to call it a dome, be my guest. I don't. That's my personal choice. But when you say there must be, let's say, this is my words, right? But if somebody else were to say there is a dome, we can't have gas pressure without a container, would I be behind them every step of the way? Yeah, I would. Would I use that vernacular? No, I'd say containment. Who cares? They're right. They're using biblical references and standardizing it with physical evidence. More than happy to back that.
Right. That's why we had to correct Righteous, because he was going to biblical reference but misquoting it.
All righty then.
Was that the last question?
That was the conclusion of housekeeping. Unless everybody's from Discord's got evidence of gas pressure without its container. John, maybe?
Well, I was going to say, what if it's an imaginary container?
We just had Flatsoid explain that, you can have a biblical standard all you like, as long as you back it with science.
Well, that's what atmospheric law is based on, is imaginary containers.
So not science, then?
Well, John, the word imaginary, what does that mean?
Means conceptual.
Well, they make conceptual containers at different pressure gradients. And then they say each pressure gradient is pushing on the one below it as a volume.
And that's demonstratable somehow?
No, you have to pre-assume a bunch of stuff like gravity, a sphere,
I see.
a bunch of other stuff.
Yes, it is demonstratable with actual containers. If you had actual containers, you could probably do it, but they don't.
Well, there are gradients of pressure in actual containers.
But their system doesn't have any containment at all. In fact, they've got it placed in a vacuum, not dispersing in violation of entropy.
Right. So they would have to have a so-called experiment with a vacuum next to gas pressure, and somehow the gas not filling the available space, correct?
Well, that would violate the second law of thermodynamics. That would render that law bunk.
Well, yes, I know. But what I'm saying is every time they come to prove it, they always come with a container, because they can't do what I just said, which is show gas pressure next to a vacuum without a membrane or something keeping it from going into the available space.
No, they'll normally start by declaring the vacuum is being contained in a container, and then they're doing something within the container.
I know it's
I
comical.
don't know if you know anything about Henry's law,
Fill us in.
because Henry's law that's what they are basing their atmospheric law actually on. I mean, Henry's law states that the constant temperature, the amount of gas that dissolves in a liquid, is directly proportional to the partial pressure of that gas. So they are stating it's in liquid and the temperature is constant. Is that what they're trying to say?
I don't know, I'm not hearing them say that, but maybe we'll present that so we can rip it to shreds.
Yeah, I'm working on a small atmospheric pressure movie.
Yeah, the problem with atmospheric descriptions is that they're assuming their outcome in this atmo, that's air, sphere. Well, air, atmo, isn't sphere-shaped. Atmo, that's air or gas, takes the shape of its container. Now, they presuppose that air forms homogeneous layers as described by Dave moments earlier, and there's no containment to any of it. In fact, it sits in a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, more powerful than any containment we can create on Earth to create a similar vacuum. We're orders of magnitude off. Nowhere near what they claim the sky vacuum is. In violation of natural law, that would be the second law of thermodynamics. That would be to say that if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the availability of the volume it has to fill, in line with the law of entropy. Sky is not a vacuum. If it was, we wouldn't have any gas to breathe because the gas would fill the space.
Look, it's real simple. You can't ever demonstrate, or they would have by now, gas pressure next to a vacuum because it would fill the available space of the vacuum. So since they can't do that, they have to go through all this other stuff and purposely abuse the English language to try to get people to believe it's actually happening.
What's Psalms 19:11? It's on Werner von Braun's tombstone, or headstone rather.
Yes.
Anybody know off the top of their head?
Psalms 19:1.
You got it wrong, Paul. I got that from someone in the chat. That'll learn me. Anybody? Anybody recite it? If it's Psalms 1 or Psalms 11, it makes no difference as long as anybody knows what's on Werner von Braun's headstone. Anybody at all?
The heavens, are you there? Yeah, I'm off mute. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork.
There you go, Paul
Psalm
Connell.
19.
Shout out to you. It is 19.
1.
19-1. Thank you very much. Good call there, Paul Connell from the chat. Hey, it's Chocolate saying.
Chocolate.
Hey, Chucky.
It's good day.
What's up, guys?
Oh, you belabored that entrance. You loved all the attention. Hey, Chaka.
Yeah.
You just gotta be patient. He's going Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
You gotta figure it out.
What's going on, guys? How's everybody? Happy Monday.
Indeed it is.
I see you found bread trails leading you here.
Yeah, I was looking for the link. I was like, what's going on here? There's a call going on, Skype.
May as well. I'll fill you in. So the video conferencing part of Hangouts, formerly Hangouts on Air, has now gone completely.
Oh, wow. Really? They just changed it during the weekend?
Must have done, because I started the show as it would normally. I'm like, oh, no button to start a conference call. Maybe there's a different way of doing it. Not that there would be. So I tried a few methods of starting a call with 10th Man, and then, taking that call to pass on to you guys so that you could join the call, but I couldn't seem to figure it out on whatever they'd given as an alternative. There was a name to the alternative. I just can't recall it off the top of my head right now.
All right. Well, at least this works. Seems to work all right, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
seems fine.
Anybody in Discord want to discuss the housekeeping questions? Invitation.
Have you ever thought of using Zoom?
I've used Zoom.
Are
All
there
right,
any
well, no
ballers
one's-
in Discord?
If no one's going to bite on Discord, I got a topic I want to talk about.
Good.
So before you do, I'm just saying, if there was ballers in Discord, if the show was reversed, I would be jumping in there to prove my point that the Earth is flat. What's the problem with the people who believe the Earth is a sphere? Why are they not jumping in and giving us some evidence? What's the problem?
Because Neil, they don't have balls to prove it.
Well, that's a play on words. Nothing I'm guilty of course.
Well, of course not.
All right, let's go on. Sunspot. When you see the high altitude balloon, you see the image of a sunspot over a particular area over the Earth. Everyone familiar with what I'm saying visually?
Are you asking if we're familiar with sunspots?
Well, just particularly the one from the high altitude balloon where it shows a reflection of the sun over a particular part of the Earth.
Okay, no, I'm not familiar with that. Shout out to old Junkie for
I
the super
think
chat.
what you mean to say is a hot spot.
A hot spot.
opposed to a
that's another way
sunspot.
of saying it. Yeah, hot spot, sunspot.
The sunspot would be what they call like the dots on the sun, right? But the hot spot would be the light that you
Okay.
see, like let's say reflecting off the ocean. That's what you mean, right?
Correct.
Something
That's
like
what I
that?
mean. Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's what I mean. Okay, my bad. Since there are sunspots, I meant, but I said over the Earth, but I guess hot spot is better. Let's put it that way. A hot spot.
I got your back, buddy.
How you always do, Choco.
Okay, so we're all clear now.
anybody
Hotspots. A little dot
Hots-
on the top of the clouds when seen from above in a potentially hot air balloon or weather balloon. Something looking down on the clouds, looking at a hot spot of the sun on the clouds. Okay, we're all on the same page. Go ahead.
Yeah, and even from a weather balloon that's well over 100,000 feet above the Earth, you see it over the ocean even. So that hot spot is zenith, zenith being the 90 degree. So let me get to my point. So if you want to know where the 57 astronomical stars and the 4 planets that they use for navigation, plus sun and the moon, are, you must know their geographical position at zenith. That's where in the almanac that you go to, it tells you where the sun is at that point at zenith, 12 noon for us, basically, over that particular part of the Earth. And that's how they get their latitude, longitude fix, using time from Greenwich for the longitude and the latitude as well from where the geographic position is of the sun at that exact second. Now, 5 minutes later, it's going to move a little bit, and 5 hours later, it won't be over that spot, it'll be somewhere else. So in order for navigation to work, you must know the exact location of these stars that they use for navigation at that moment, where it's a direct shot at a 90 degree. Can't be angled, it's got to be direct. And based on these pictures, it is direct. Now, if you're a sailor in the ocean and you pull out your sextant and you want to know how far you are from something, you have to know the geographical positions of these stars to get the angle from where you are to where they are at 12 noon, the zenith position of it, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yes, indeed.
Everybody
Hey,
with
Eli.
me? Okay. All right. Well, where is the saying of theirs that the light comes in parallel because the sun is so far away and all these stars are so far away that light comes in parallel. The whole Earth would be a sunspot if it came in parallel. I'm sorry, hotspot. I keep calling it sunspot.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yes. Thank you for sending that, Chocolate. I've got it on screen now.
Yeah, I figure that might help. That's what you're talking about, Tim, right?
I'm not looking at the screen, but
it is, yes.
I put it in Skype. Master.
Oh, okay. I'll go there. So when we have crepuscular rays, yeah, that's the one, Chaco. So when we see crepuscular rays and the angled rays, the only one of those rays that can be a geographic position is the one directly underneath it. Everything else going sideways in divergent manners can't be used for a geographic position, for navigation. See where I'm going with this?
Yeah. What's this next one?
So I also added a conception of what these parallel rays is supposed to look like coming from the sun.
Correct.
You got the whole Earth illuminated, the whole one side of the Earth, but all of a sudden it becomes the little hot spot. Yeah, I see what you mean, man.
Yeah. So for an instrument called the sextant, I'm going to be putting up a video soon. I've been working on it for a while, but I've got to figure out all the angles to the comebacks and have that within the presentation, so it's one presentation covers everything. So I'm taking time with it, but just to let a little bit of the cat out of the bag, this is what I'm talking about. If the sun rays are parallel, then we shouldn't be seeing crepuscular rays. And based on this picture, at some 100,000+ feet above the Earth, you have your hot spot, and that would be an actual geographic position that sun is over at that time. That's in the almanacs for navigation, and they must use it, and it must be correct. They can't go off of a divergent ray when you see crepuscular rays. They have to go with the zenith of that sun, directly above it, in order to have a fixed position on the Earth. Just a little taste of what's coming. The sextant proves a flat Earth, basically. It can't happen on the globe. Can't work.
Nice.
Excellent.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, Eli.
Hey, Eli. Is it Eli? Because I call you Elijah each time you join.
Elijah. It's all good.
Eli's Coming, Three Dog Night has a song. Have you heard it?
No.
I have not.
I'll go look it up. Three Dog Night.
Elijah, I must say, I'm enjoying your channel, dude. It's a long videos, but I'm enjoying it.
Ooh, what you do on your
I
channel?
don't have any channel.
You're thinking of
Must
someone
be
else,
another
clearly.
Elijah. Well, let's just say Elijah. I thought it's you.
Sounds like you got a doppelganger somewhere broadcasting under your name. I'd be very worried.
Well, I'll give props to my boy Elijah, because he's another one making music out there, putting out those flat earth bars. Awesome. Much fire.
Thank you. New song out now. Anybody who wants the link can have it.
Chocolate, when you say flat earth bars, is that a location or is that musical bars you're talking about?
You know what bars I'm talking about, man. Wow. Yes, music band.
Is Adam here? Did Adam join the call?
I have. I wonder what was going off at first, but yeah, found my way.
Just figured out how to see who's actually in the call. Hello, Adam.
Afternoon, everyone. You go back to get knocked off number 1 spot, Chocolate. Am I hearing?
Say that again.
What? You're about.
Hey, you left the after, or you're in the after show channel, Nathan.
Oh, my bad. Sorry to kill the conversation like that, but someone let me know that I just happened to leave the Discord live stream by accident. I don't know how.
Well, it's interesting to hear the conversation about the sun. I love the sun, but I'm not going to get too deep into that. I actually wanted to bring up one of BMLSB 69's observations.
Feel free.
Like, so, I mean, no, I haven't really heard too many people talk about this one, but he has an observation where he's 3 feet off the ground at one point, at most 1 foot off the ground. And he's looking at a platform 19 miles away with the horizon behind it.
We have covered it, but yes, it doesn't get covered anywhere near as much. And yeah, it's a Black Swan, obviously, but it's miles better than the original Black Swan. But it doesn't matter. It's one of those that you only need one. And there's going to be more and more coming in. And that is a better observation, I grant you. And it hardly gets talked about, right?
Hardly ever. I'm like, come on. I'm like, what? Come on.
Dean Wright, I plugged him the other day, did a thank you video. So thank you, Dean Wright, for doing a thank you video saying goes to GeoShifter. Anyway, he went out and did the same thing. He's like, look at this boat on the horizon. Admittedly, it hasn't got a horizon behind the boat. They're both sat on the horizon. But ultimately speaking, they're both out. One of them's out at about a similar distance, or maybe 15 miles. He's like, there you go. Flat Earth. I'm just out. Here we go with my camera. There's Flat Earth in front of you. Simple. You know, in terms of BLMSB 69, he's getting the clarity to show the horizon is actually behind these platforms at 19 miles, and it does make me smile. But I fell foul to that immediately with QE. Now, I quite like telling this story, so I might as well tell it now. You know, I approached him soon after the Black Swan had got going, maybe in February, and said, here you go, this BLMSB observation is slightly more recent, better clarity, less refraction. Wobbly grains aren't a part of this particular image. Let's use that. You know, it stops them going immediately and saying refraction by pointing out grains. And he's like, QE's response was, I want them to say refraction. This is before I really got it. I'm like, what do you mean you want them to say refraction? And they broke it down for me. And he's like, well, what is their refraction? Well, their refraction's based on R. Where are they getting R from? A physical geometric sphere edge horizon. The best and most succinct way to describe this is with Arwin's description. It becomes a paradox. You can't measure R to move the horizon with 7/6R. Well, therefore, as soon as they say refraction, they're saying they haven't got geometry. If the line to the horizon, that's a tangent in their maths, is bent, refracted, deviated from straight, it is not a tangent. If the point they are measuring is refracted, that would be the horizon, then it's not a tangent point. So it debunks the geometry. So therefore, we'll let them say refraction. Therein ends their model. But the original will always be the best Black Swan. It just is the way it is, despite the fact there are far, far superior observations, many of them from BLMSB 69 himself. Shout out to Paul Connell, who was the guy who commented earlier. Thank you for all the nightly entertainment here in Perth, Australia. The banter and globe fundy pummeling. You are the best on YouTube. Wow. I love the 10th and Arwin too. Yeah, thank you very much. That's really sweet. And thank you very much for the super chat. I really, really appreciate it.
I agree with that.
He was the guy who commented about Werner von Braun earlier. Oh, Neil.
No, I was just saying I agree with that. Whatever you just read.
Nathan, why don't you jump into that a little bit deeper about them using refraction and how it destroys there are, the 3959, but because if it's no longer geometric.
Well, other than repeating exactly what I've just said, what they're measuring is a physical geometric sphere edge horizon. And they call that, in geometry, a tangent point. The physical point where their line they'll drawn from the point they're measuring, that's what you must have to do geometry, a tangent point. Well, the moment they say the horizon is refracted, regardless of which methodology they're using, that would be refraction, which is real, or their geometric terrestrial 7/6R refraction, regardless of which one you use, it's no longer a tangent point. No longer capable of being a tangent point, because refraction is always, in their world, everything's refracted. Well, while you might be able to argue that as true or otherwise, it makes no difference if you're doing geometry, you need a tangent point. Same goes for the line you draw to that point, their physical edge. The edge they used to say block boats and buildings. A tangent point has a tangent line drawn to it. And what is a tangent line? Well, it's straight. So as soon as you refract that line and say, well, the light coming to your eye is bent, well, it's not a tangent anymore. Bye-bye, globe geometry. They can't assert it anymore. And the way they get around it is even worse, because they say, well, I'm going to bend the line with 7/6R, that's terrestrial refraction, and that bending of said line, terrestrial refraction, requires the R value that required a measurement to the tangent point they can't see anymore. Paradoxically speaking, it leaves the model in tatters. It implodes. It's no longer tenable. We do not live on a sphere. You cannot assert sphere geometry mathematics. It's just not true. Earth is flat.
Like light beams diverge from the focal point. I don't know anything about this bending around physical Earth curvature. Like, that's so weird that they would even assert things like that. I mean, you do a quick Google for how far away is the horizon, and it tells you everything but refraction. It just tells you this is how you calculate the distance. This is where it is. Boom. There you go. I mean, it's ridiculous.
The mathematics for an Earth curve is a hijacking of the effect we call perspective in simplistic terms. They've taken the effect of things getting smaller into the distance and asserted that's actually an Earth curve obstruction at the horizon that's physical. A tangent point they can measure with geometry and draw a straight line to, until the black swan came along, and now they're drawing bent lines to non-physical, non-tangent points. So no longer doing geometry. End of model. You can't get R if you can't measure R. To move the horizon with R and make it a non-tangent point to bend the light without a tangent to it. It's completely screwed.
Yeah, but they say they have measured R.
Well, how? How would you measure it if you can't see it? If you can't see a physical tangent point, how are you going to measure it?
No, they base it on the radius 3959. So this.
Well, you can't measure something if you're basing it on it. That's circular reasoning. I'm going to measure R. How? Well, by assuming R. Well, no, you're supposed to be measuring it. Measuring something is measuring something. Assuming something is assuming something. Saying I'm assuming it to measure it is just circular reasoning.
Doesn't it always go back to they have to assume that we're on a sphere? All proofs of the globe start by the assumption that you are standing on a sphere. Am I correct at saying that?
Yes. All declarations that you are stood on a sphere will start with the assumption that you are stood on a sphere. Correct.
And then going to Aristophanes, you have to assume parallel rays, which we just talked about. That doesn't exist. So.
The whole model contradicts itself.
Well, there's only one.
Hold on, 10th. Say again. Hold on, 10th. Say again, sorry.
The whole model contradicts itself. In every argument they give, they double speaking contradiction of what they claimed in the first instance.
Absolutely. They claim something happens, like Earth has 15 degrees an hour drift as we turn underneath stuff not attached. You say to them, we don't have Earth turning underneath stuff not attached. And they say, we wouldn't expect to see Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. Whatever gave you that idea?
It's also a constant bombardment of stuff that the media puts out. Like, look, I just seen a commercial for the PlayStation 5 that's coming out. And the whole commercial is Earth, a globe, and planets, and boom, PS5.
Yeah, back to Elijah here for a minute. there's only one part of those divergent rays that's directly overhead. That's the hot spot. That's the only one that's straight up and down, and that's the zenith. And that's the only one that they use in navigation to place where the stars, moon, and all the other navigational stars that are being used. Not the ones angling out. There's no refraction when it's directly at zenith. It's directly at zenith. That's the point. The only time they worry about refraction in navigation is when you're sighting something that's 15 degrees or lower to the horizon. They say don't do it because of all the stuff in the air. And directly overhead, there is no refraction in celestial navigation.
Well, I had a dude tell me that the GPS that takes me where I go every day is because of a sphere.
So, because of global positioning system, Earth is a sphere. That's begging the question circular reasoning again. So, the assumption that we have orbiting satellites, that would be the assumption that these things sent to a second law of thermodynamics sky vacuum are actually falling around a sphere, to label it as global positioning system. So, based on the assumption that things fall around a sphere when sent up to a non-existent place, I'll say that proves a sphere because it's got it in the title global positioning system. No, Neil, no.
Yeah, and he says, well, you get to where you need to go, right? And you're using the system, right?
Okay,
yeah,
so
but that
that's
could be
incorrect, Neil. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, I was just going to say Brian said it's ground positioning system, so I'll hand it over to Brian.
But I'm mute here. There we go. I said.
This is going to take some getting used to, clearly. Just give Brian a couple of seconds.
It's just the mute button on Skype is a bit tricky. You can all hear me now, I take it.
Yes,
no,
go ahead. GPS.
GPS. A more correct term for GPS, or for that acronym or whatever, is geodetic positioning system. They got all of their mapping and everything from geodetic surveying, and geodetic surveying all use Cartesian coordinates. And so does every supposed navigation system, these supposed satellite navigation systems. They all use Cartesian coordinates. They all find their way from for you from A to B using a completely flat Earth.
Okay,
coming up with GPS?
What are Cartesian coordinates, please?
Cartesian coordinates are an XY. They could be XY, which are just 2D. Two-dimensional, or they could be 3D, X, Y, and Z, which is including a zenith. So, if you can imagine, as a 2D system, a grid map reference, a grid reference map, where all the squares have to be the same exact dimensions. And in a 3D system, which is what GPS uses, it's like a bunch of cubes all together. Now, if you try and put a bunch of squares or a bunch of cubes and keep them of the same dimension around a sphere, it doesn't work. And if anyone wants the absolute proof of this, if you go to Google Earth, you get your coordinates and latitude and longitude, but you'll get an elevation with that. What they do is they take the 3D Cartesian coordinates and they take the 2D part of it and convert it mathematically to latitude and longitude.
Okay, so you said it started with geodetic surveyors. So they're geodetic surveyors that they start the process with developing the global positioning systems mapping with, would start with what I understand to be a tangent plane and a zenith that is assumed to be pointing to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Would I be correct in that assumption about how geodetic survey takes place?
Exactly, and each tangent plane connects to every other tangent plane. So let's say you have a tangent plane here, where you are, Nathan. There'll be another one in front of it, behind it, and each side of it, and at each corner. And they just pre-assume that this zenith that's going to the center of each zenith that's going to the center of each one of these squares is going to the center of a pre-assumed sphere. But they have to work with reality first. So
well, before we get to the reality bit, we'll get to that. We'll definitely get to that. But before we do, we've got two words. We've got tangent and we've got plane. So let's break down those two words first and then explain how they apply to what the geodetic survey is going to do. So what's a tangent?
It's a straight line.
straight line to a point on a spherical surface, correct?
Yeah.
And the point on the spherical surface would be a tangent point, correct?
Yeah.
And when the geodetic surveyors actually start this process, they would take a measurement of their zenith. Can you just explain what that is, please?
Zenith is a conceptual straight line from above your head, from the sky, coming straight down vertically to meet the ground.
So they take that measurement and they cross-reference it with a datum, correct?
Yes, once they bring that to the center of a pre-assumed sphere, the cross-reference, they're bringing that to the center mathematically of a datum. They're straight away cross-referencing an oblate spheroid datum. That's exactly it.
So essentially they're saying we are pointing at this angle towards the center of a presupposed spherical Earth, and out in all directions is the sphere of the Earth falling away from me at points that meet tangents because I've got a spherical surface. Now, from that assumed pointing towards the center of a presupposed spherical Earth, that would give them the tangent point of this tangent plane. What's the plane bit, and how does that relate to what they actually do?
The plane is the zenith that meets the ground. The plane part is a 3D or 2D Cartesian coordinate system, which is the plane part is what creates the grid reference map.
So what you're saying is they assume they're standing on a sphere, and the straight plumb line that they would draw to conclude the zenith or derive the zenith, which is the line pointing straight from above them down through their head towards the ground. When you and I stand up straight, we've got a 90 degree to the ground. Whereas when they stand up straight, they assume it's pointing off at whatever angle they're stood on a sphere based on the datum that they've assumed. But from that point forward, they measure Cartesian coordinates, which is a 3 or 2-dimensional grid reference system that is flat. That's what they actually measure, correct?
Yes. And then they convert it after that to whatever other coordinate system they want to convert it mathematically to.
Okay, so to summarise, to come up with global positioning system, they make the measurements by assuming that they're pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth before they take any measurements. They then take the measurements on a flat surface and translate those into longitude, latitude, and all the data needed for the GPS system to give you your information in terms of where you stand on the measured flat plane that they actually measured. But prior to measuring it, they assumed it was spherical beneath their feet, and at no point took any measurements that were actually spherical. They just assumed flat for all the actual measurements, correct?
Yeah, that's how they do zenith reciprocal angles.
Yeah, they basically, for everybody, they imagine that your feet are pointed towards the center of a sphere. So in Nathan's feet right now and my feet are both pointed towards the center of a sphere, an oblate spheroid, mathematically. And they start with that premise before they do anything else.
Yeah, but their mathematical that mathematical declaration you've made is true. But based on the datum saying where you and I are pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, nothing to do with actual measurements, we've both got plumb lines pointing down, but the datum says we're pointing at different points towards the spherical Earth, that if I was a geodetic surveyor, I'd be measuring flat after making this assumption.
Yes.
I see.
Our zeniths would diverge mathematically, but the reality would be it's totally flat between me and you.
So they're measuring it flat, and before they do any measurements, assuming it's a sphere based on a datum, and then deriving this into a map, calling it a global positioning system when it's utilised for positioning someone when they move around that, originally based on a presupposed spherical datum measured flat mapping system called GPS.
Yes.
So it doesn't prove a sphere beyond the title and presupposition made by the geodetic surveys before they measured the flat territory that we actually walk on.
Exactly.
Excellent, Brian. This has been a very productive conversation today. I love Mondays.
Yeah,
but the world...
just a biased measurement.
I had Flatsoid first.
The world sees it a different way.
Hold on, I had Flatsoid first. Go ahead, Flatsoid.
I said, it's all just a biased measurement. You can't have any actual measurements if you've already assumed your outcome before you do any measurements. Then it's not a measurement.
Well, no, they still measure it. They just measure it flat with Cartesian coordinates.
Yeah, but it's invalidated then.
Well, no, they just have an assumption before they do any measurements that they're on a sphere based on the datum that they've cross-referenced to give them a zenith that points to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth other than what they're actually measuring at that point. What they hold up is a plumb line. Well, their plumb line points down. But on their datum, it says it points sideways or whatever ways is pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth based on the datum they cross-reference. But from there on in, they measure flat. So they do measure, it's just flat.
Yes.
Yeah, people need to do it.
But you see,
Hold on, Flat, sorry, whoever that was, go ahead.
I'm just saying, people have to look into it. I mean, everybody just takes their word for it. And like I was talking to that guy, and he was telling me GPS, you use it, you follow it, and that's all for globe. But if they would look into it, they would see that it's not.
Indeed. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. And a massive thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Another huge thank you to both Discord and Skype for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
They hijacked to mean globe. Would you be okay if they were tricking you that way?
Who was that a question for, 10th?
Well, to Neil, it's a response that how people are fooled into thinking global positioning system means satellite, ball Earth, etc. And I said, yeah, but this is the job falls on us who are seeking truth in this matter, like Brian's excellent summary there with you asking questions, to educate people that they got their global positioning system from actual flat plane ground positioning system. And how would they feel if they were being lied to all these years? That's the way I would approach this, and then prove it to them, if they would have it.
Speaking of, did you see a balloon fell out of the sky the other day?
Yeah, a Google loon, one of the Google Loon project loons.
What's interesting, it can stay afloat for a year long.
I should be more enthusiastic, but it's just old news, right?
Yeah, the Google planes are supposed to be staying 5 years, from what I read. They're just big gliders with solar, solar strips on them and all that. So we'll see. I don't know if they're activated yet.
Who knows? We know they're not falling around a presupposed spherical Earth based on geodetic surveys assuming a datum.
That's for sure.
Well, I've yet to see any surveyor give me a date and that doesn't assume an ellipsoid.
That's all they do. That's their only function. that assumption
Just
is that all they're there for. That's all they're for.
just the very name of an airplane. Airplane. If it was over a ball, why not air ball?
I don't know. We're not living on a sphere, so
Imagine how dangerous it would be to fly a plane over a ball. Fall asleep and you're all of a sudden in space or crashing down into the ground.
What space?
yeah, nobody's answering because there isn't any. If Sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space.
That's my favorite proof still till today.
I had the opportunity to share Flat Earth just recently, and the cognitive dissonance in just when you see their eyes dilate and do things, it's like a measure of what their brain's going through. When what are you saying? Blah blah blah. I go, think about it. How can you have gas pressure without a container? How's that possible? And they know what you're saying is true, but it's fighting what all the programming is in their mind. And it's just great to see, actually.
The guy I worked with the other day listened to everything I said. He said, wow, you sound right. Everything sounds true, but I just can't get past what I learned in school. And then he brought me to rockets that were being launched. And the ISS and all of this other nonsense. He explained it to them. It makes sense to them, but they can't get past it.
Well, it wouldn't have the foothold on their brain if they didn't have contraptions and, stage effects, to validate the false teaching from the beginning. So if they were taught the sphere and they never saw rockets going up, it would kind of erode when Neil got to you. But now, well, where are the rockets going? And what about the ISS? And what about and so they have all of their paraphernalia to go along with the lie to keep the people in this matrix of theirs.
I just got one quick question. What's up with the change up? Why are we on Skype and not on Hangouts? What happened?
No more Hangouts on air.
Oh, I gotta go. The police is here for me.
There's going to be some adjustments. We'll have to get used to it. I was just pondering it that literally as you said that. I'm thinking, how can I change what's on screen? But anyway, I'll worry about that.
Oh, so Hangouts, you can't do live streaming anymore with it?
You couldn't before. I was just filming the actual Hangout page. So it wasn't actually broadcasting at all anyway. It's an old throwback to the very first show, and now it's gone. This is now not the original show anymore because there's no element of the original show part of it anymore, right?
We're evolving. Wait a minute, I'm not supposed to say that. Sorry.
It's kind of bittersweet, right? The way the old show functioned has completely gone, so there is no remnants at all of old flat Earth debate.
Well, at least you're still able to broadcast.
Oh, yeah.
You need to have a marathon, like on New Year's when they have the honeymooner marathons and the odd couple marathons. On New Year's, you should start from show one and just have them go right through.
I have considered it a few times, but there's plenty of stuff that comes out. So, I put out minimum 2 videos a day. Minimum. So I just don't want to oversaturate it. And yeah, while people have said, put out some of the old ones, rebroadcast them, you mean so that there's a chat room next to them and you can chit-chat while the old shows are going on? It's like, I've got enough fresh new material to not require to do that, and doing it would oversaturate the material that's out there labelled Flat Earth Debate, in my opinion, anyway. So I've never done it as much as people have suggested it. You know, I will encourage people, go back and look at the old shows and see how different it is.
Marathon, Nathan. Marathon.
Yeah, okay. Does that work?
But you know what? It kind of, instead of a marathon, maybe you can, of course, like it would take a lot of work on your part if you so cared, to find like all of the shows that were the most important, like say the first show QE was on, or the first show Chocolate was on, the first show even some of the ballers like Wiggles was on, and like, you know, marathon those.
I'll consider it.
I mean, I think
if somebody sends
like
me
140 something.
If somebody wants to send me a show number, just one sec. If somebody wants to send me a show number and say this particular show had this, this, and this happen in it, and for that reason I think you should rebroadcast it. It might be the case that one of the shows we say, okay, right, on this show, what we're going to do is sod the public. No one can join. We'll just sit around and discuss an old show.
You could set up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, get the audience to do it. F it, you know, make them do the work.
Well, I'm not saying do the work. I'm just saying if there's a particular show somebody thinks is great and they tell me or let me know in a way that they don't just verbally say, oh, by the way, number 974. Yeah, oh, right, that's brilliant. What happened in 974? 30 seconds later, I'll forget. Whereas if somebody sends me an email and says, look, this particular show had this happen in it, I think that's significant for this reason. It also had this happen in it. I'll go, okay, well, personally, I don't think that's worth giving up a proper live show to dissect. And I'll thank them and say, well, okay, that's great. I'll consider that and I'll add it to the list of notes. And should it be the case that I ever want to do a continual stream or a 24-hour stream or something of that nature, I'll have already compiled from people's suggestions shows that they feel would be worthy of that. Now, by coincidence, Bob Nodell has already spotted an opening in that particular market with this particular material and is doing that anyway. So there are now Flat Earth debates. He told me that he put the one up with Wiggles, and that has now made its way onto Globebusters. So their 24/7 Discord, which is a variety of different things, more appropriate to have me as part of the variety. I'm very privileged. I'm thanking him for doing so. But that makes more sense to me, and I encourage him to do more. You know, put more of me on there, definitely. But me doing it when I'm already doing it, I'm already producing new, fresh material, and the old stuff is still there to view. That said, if somebody's got a particularly significant video, I'm not going to say no. It might be well worth discussing. And I can't remember what happened yesterday, let alone what happened 400 shows ago.
Keep moving forward. The past is over.
Yeah, I'm with that too. I mean, I can see it from both sides, Brian. You know, my overarching attitude is the same as yours, though. I think, you know, there's enough. I put in enough effort as it is to keep it fresh and new. Now, even then, people go, "Oh, you're saying the same things." It's like, yeah, Earth's still flat. Earth is still not a sphere. You've still got no scientific evidence. But the rest of the Western world, who have no idea we even exist, don't know that yet. So, yeah, it's going to be repetitive from that point of view. So making it repetitive and covering stuff by repeating it and discussing it, I don't know. I don't want to do it necessarily. I mean, I might change my mind. I've discussed it many times.
What's the title of your show?
Flat Earth Debate.
There it is. Why even I try to explain it?
No. I was just suggesting that, you know, like during New Year's, TV shows have these marathons, that maybe there would be a way to just start it from show one and just have it keep going straight through. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I'm just throwing it out there.
Have you recently got rid of television, Neil?
How would I?
How would you?
How would I watch my football games?
That's a no. What you're asking for is to regenerate the kind of nostalgia that you that TV generates in those sorts of formats, and you've described the format that you're looking for, right?
No, because I do remember, when I used to watch TV a lot back in the day before I came to a knowledge that the Earth was not a spinning water ball. Yeah, they used to have, during New Year's, they would have the Twilight Zone marathons, and they would just run them for 24 hours.
I got an idea, Neil. Since we have lately experienced absence of ballers showing up, it might be, as Elijah said, have people, I think it was Elijah, go to the very first show all the way here. That could be you, actually, and take an excerpt of it. And then we just discuss on a live show an excerpt of show 1, and then the next one, excerpt of show 2. So rather than giving up the live show for a marathon, you include some of the old within each show. But someone's got to take ownership of that and, sending a clip and put the minute mark for Nathan.
No, that's not what he wants.
I never
Neil wants to be able to sit around surrounded by potato chips and beer and slob out whilst having a marathon of Twilight Zone, but equivalent with Flat Earth debate. That's what Neil wants.
Hold on. I never said interfere with the live show. Never once did I say that. This needs to go out every single day, just like this.
Yeah, Neil wants
So you want a 24/7, except for one of those hours, it's a live show.
I don't want
the other
anything.
23.
I'll freaking do it myself. I'll look the shows up myself and watch them.
I love you, Neil. I'll freaking do it myself. Forget you guys.
Yeah, but I mean, I respect the audience effort. Listen, I'm sure a lot of us were originally fans. I was a fan, and one of the first times I had to listen, I spent literally 5-6 hours going through every episode to find the episode that MG42 Pillbox was on, showing the when he was on the plane. Well, he was showing a video of the plane, and on the right you could see nighttime, and on the left you can see the sun just setting. And I thought that was important to me, and I spent all day looking for it. I'm sure there are people out there who have their favorites,
Yeah, I've seen that with my own eyes a few times. I'm sure Chocolate's the same, right?
I've seen it many times.
But it is glorious, and the thing that struck me the most while he was showing that was, Pillbox. I could completely understand where he was coming from. You can see him scurrying around and leaning over people. And what are the people that are around him doing? Well, half of them are asleep. Half of them might be reading a book. Some of them are looking at the back of the crappy headset TV that they've got on offer. Most of them aren't paying the slightest bit of attention to what is being presented to us by him via his camera phone. He's interested. I was interested. Most people couldn't care less. Just goes to show.
I had a flight from Hawaii to LAX, and from LAX, maybe an hour, 40 minutes later, another flight to Georgia, then a little bit layover in Georgia, not long, from Georgia all the way to Madrid, Spain. And it was such a long flight with just small layovers at each stop that I saw what you guys are saying, and I was so tired by the time I got into Madrid, Spain. It was just one of those things where I couldn't sleep. I just had to keep looking out. And that was before Flat Earth show or anything I knew. It's just I always liked looking out the windows and seeing the Earth and the sky.
Yeah, there's a couple of different sort of brands of flat earthers that seem to cross my path as well. There's the ones that start looking up at the sky when they realise this information and start noticing things that they definitely weren't looking at before. and the others that are like, yeah, I was always looking at those things, and semi-consciously, maybe I realised it's not true, and that's why I'm here now.
Hey, listen, that Coriolis thing blew my mind the other day when I seen that with my own eyes.
They're easy to replicate, though. Just go on a kid's playground on a roundabout.
I know, but the way it happened, I was just driving. I glanced up. I seen the plane right overhead going straight with me. And then I just happened to hit a roundabout. I was like, whoa, look at this. Anyway, I guess you had to be there.
No, I totally get it. You understand suddenly that what you're watching in the plane is seeming to do something it isn't. It's seeming to take a curved path all of a sudden. Well, if you're only looking at the plane, ignoring the fact that your car is actually taking a rotating path beneath it, then from your vantage point, it looks like the curve is suddenly real. And it is, it's apparent. You're seeing it curve, aren't you? That's what you saw. It seemed, it was apparent, you saw it curve. Did the plane suddenly take a massive detour? No, of course it didn't. You were turning underneath it. That's Coriolis effect. What you did was describe by observation what you saw, and the description is Coriolis effect. You turning underneath something not attached and it seeming to curve because of it. Well, that's what they claim Earth does. Earth's claim to turn underneath stuff not attached, including planes, to make them look like they're curving. The only problem with that is that would involve Earth turning underneath stuff not attached. And that does not happen.
Yep. Speaking of different ways people come to this, if Chocolate's still here, I think you can jump in. I feel like I was like one of those, I can't think of a better word, but maybe someone could help me here, like a sleeper cell kind of a thing. I mean, I never believed that y'all know my high school story with the teacher saying, I don't believe it, but I got to teach it. Well, then I said, well, if you don't believe it and you're teaching, it's not true. So, but then I didn't pay attention to it. And all of a sudden, when the time is right, when I first saw flat Earth pop up, from the tip of my toes to the top of my head is like a charge of excitement, electricity. I knew it. You know, it's like, then it's like, all right, I'm on it now. Because now, what is that? What happened through those years was, you know, I knew I wasn't spinning. You know, people, I didn't hang around people in the sci-fi community where they constantly are, you know, dribbling on me that we're a ball and spinning. I didn't go to college. I didn't have it pounded through to me. I enjoyed sci-fi movies, but I knew they were made up. So none of that got to me. So I wasn't under the constant barrage of affirmation and, you know, conditioning. And then when I first saw flat Earth, actually in the internet feed somewhere, when I was looking at the, what was it? It was, what's his face? 40 pictures from Antarctica. And I said, well, what's this got to do with anything? And then that's when I first saw it. It was like, boom. So I would say it's because of the lack of conditioning, the lack of college and university, where they constantly push it on you, that I was able to, you know, behave the way I behaved when I first saw it. What say you?
I would just like to congratulate. Sorry, just slightly off topic of what Tent Man said, but I think it's important. I congratulate Neil on testing negative for the Coriolis virus.
I thought no, all flat earthers are immune by default.
Oh well, that's a relief.
Good one. That was good.
Some say we are the cure.
I can't catch it and I can't give it, right?
You're the cure. You're the antidote.
I am it. Oh, so wouldn't you agree that the lack of conditioning and the constant barrage of heliocentrism and all that stuff didn't get to me because I didn't put myself in front of it, obviously.
Only you can tell, I suppose. Self-assessment rules here.
Well, for people who gone to, I'm not saying university is bad. I'm just saying if you go there and you're constantly putting yourself under the conditioning mechanisms that they use to, whether university or college and all that, it's just being reinforced all the time without you knowing.
Ask Adam. There, Adam.
The best is when Anthony had that debate with those college kids. I loved that.
I just say my name.
Did?
Yeah.
Do you want to ask your question
Sorry,
again,
dude, I was just down. I was just getting a coffee.
Can you
They
ask
never say your name right anyway. It's the Adam Meakin.
Can you ask
Like when
the
you're
Adam
from
Meakin?
the Bronx.
Can you ask the Adam Meakin the question again, please, 10th?
Well, it was more of a statement followed by a question. I was saying that when I had that encounter in high school with the teacher who says he doesn't even believe it, but he's got to teach it. I said, well, then it's not true, and I don't believe it anyway because I don't feel myself spinning. And then because I didn't go to college, university, and I only looked at sci-fi movies as entertainment, never believed that it was real stuff. When I first ran across the first public statement on the internet about flat Earth, I got all excited and said, "Yeah, I knew it all the time," you know. And I say, "Well, why did that happen that way?" Not to the best of my understanding. It's because I didn't go through the systems where they constantly put it on you and precondition you and etc. So I was trying to get people's opinion as to what they thought of that.
Get that, Adam? Or do you want a summary?
I'm not sure what I'm commenting on. I know.
Well, let me summarise the question. Would you agree or disagree that upon going through higher education system, you will become more indoctrinated into the heliocentric worldview than if you were not?
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's part of it is it's acceptance that other you kind of taught to accept that other spheres, even if they contradict you, they know better. So you kind of secede to their greater knowledge in any subject. So like a pharmacist would, look at a physics department, and even if there's some contradiction, you'd look there and be more willing to accept a contradiction because you're being told it sits in another department and boffins have sorted that out, even though it looks odd to you. So I suppose the way it's decompartmentalized isn't it? The knowledge lends to that.
Makes sense? So, in other words, if you're working in the math department and somebody in the biology department says something that seems contradictory, you say, well, they are the subject matter expert in that sphere, therefore I'll just accept it based on the fact that they are the experts and they work in that field and their contradictions are their problem. Almost, no?
Yeah. Whereas if you're here on your own and you're proving to yourself, you go from one bit to the other and you draw your own conclusions, don't you? Which I think you're more, as Tim saying, you're more likely to come to that non-mainstream conclusion, whatever it is, if you go there and prove it to yourself, as opposed to just accepting a statement. And that what tends to be what happens, I suppose, is the biggest error. You would accept something, not necessarily prove it.
Well, that's the very admirable thing that Dr. John Dee is currently doing, isn't it? He's basically, rather than in this example where we're talking about different spheres of education basically taking it as read that what they say is correct, in his particular example he's saying, well, let's look at my own field that I've already achieved the PhD in and analyse how the presuppositions that my field has taught me in are functioning. And he's done exactly that. He contacted me the other night with another example. I won't go into it now, but that's a much better way of doing it, right? Point the finger at yourself, so to speak. That's what he's doing. He's saying, right, what does my field assume? Let's have a look. And then he contacts me in horror. I don't know why he contacts me in horror, but he does. Is this really this case? And I'm like, yes, I won't go through it now. But anyway, yes, that's what Dr. John Dee's doing, right?
Yeah, he's on it. Energy at the moment, and he's he's taking it apart from the beginning, isn't he? Looking at it, and it makes you leaves you feeling very lucky in any real knowledge. There's a hell of a lot of assumption out there, isn't there? And model building.
Yeah, that's the exact same conclusion I came to in the last conversation. The more you look into this stuff, the more you realise that you're basically clueless and don't know anything, and any perceived knowledge that you had is actually wrong. So the further you go, the dumber you feel. Any more to add? If not, we'll round out.
Oh yeah, I have something to add if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
We were given, and this is what we are actually fighting against now, we were given what I'm terming as a mathematical miracle, because we were given mathematics, the exact mathematics, from Pythagoras. Back in 570 BC he was born, so sometime after 570 BC, this guy Pythagoras gave the world a certain mathematical model of Earth. And after that, there was all these miracles happened, like the Big Bang and all this other stuff that supported it. So we are then given explanations for everything in accordance with this mathematical miracle. A friend of mine even last night were kind of not arguing with me, but debating with me a bit, and he said, but we have an explanation for something, right? I can't remember what it was. I said, yeah, but what's an explanation? So they gave us loads of explanations, but I could give an explanation. I can make up my own explanation. If their explanation is not validated and cannot be validated, and it cannot, then my explanation, whether it's validated or not, is just as strong. So they started off with a mathematical model, and they created a miracle out of it. Started like the Big Bang being the biggest one, and we are left with explanations, unvalidated explanations. So,
good point. With that, I am going to say, though, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!